Jin just made K-pop history in America, and no one was ready for it. What exactly happened on that stage in Anaheim that left tens of thousands speechless? And why is the global K-pop industry now facing questions it's never dared to ask before? On the evening of what was supposed to be just another stop on the Seokjin EP tour, something irreversible happened. Seokjin, better known worldwide as Jin of BTS, did not merely perform. He delivered a seismic jolt to the entire foundation of K-pop's international expansion. This was not simply a concert. This was an unannounced cultural disruption, one that the American music industry, Korean entertainment corporations, and millions of fans across the globe were completely unprepared for. The world expected a return. What they got was a revolution. From the moment Jin stepped onto the stage at Anaheim, the atmosphere was visibly shifting. It wasn't the stage design, nor the lighting or visuals that set this apart. It was his silence, strategic, long, and deafening, before the first note was sung. For over 30 seconds, Jin stood motionless, while the stadium roared his name. And then, without a single word, he sang The Astronaut.
No backing dancers. No elaborate transitions.
Just his voice, and something else. An unspoken weight in every breath. That performance, described by some attendees as spirit-breaking in the best way, felt less like entertainment and more like a farewell letter to the old structure of idol culture. Why did it feel like a goodbye when it was actually a comeback? Why did his voice sound like it was speaking to the industry itself, rather than the crowd in front of him? What followed wasn't the typical parade of hits. Jin's setlist in Anaheim was filled with carefully chosen songs that deviated from formula. Instead of the usual high-energy pacing expected from a solo K-pop act, the structure resembled a theatrical act. Every transition was symbolic. Every lyric hit like a loaded question. And then came the shock. Midway through the show, Jin stopped singing altogether, walked to the edge of the stage, and simply looked out into the crowd, visibly trembling. The screens zoomed in, showing tears, not as spectacle but as collapse. The man once known for his lighthearted demeanor now stood there fully human, fully raw, and completely unscripted. It was then that the murmurs began. This wasn't just a performance, it was a statement. A very public, very deliberate declaration of emotional autonomy. Jin wasn't returning to idol life. He was redefining it. Why now? Why in Anaheim? Why in the United States and not in Korea, where the very foundation of idol culture is constructed and enforced? Observers speculate that the location wasn't a coincidence. Performing this version of himself in the US, far from the rigid expectations of Korean broadcast standards and label interference, gave him space to act without censorship. Here, he wasn't constrained by the machinery that once marketed him. Here, he was a solo artist. Not just in title, but in truth, the audience, an overwhelming mix of armies, local press, and curious newcomers, stood in stunned silence. Then, during Epiphany, a track that had always resonated as a quiet anthem of self-love, something unusual happened. Fans didn't sing along in unison. They listened, and Jin, again breaking the formula, didn't extend the high note. He whispered it. That whisper echoed louder than any pyrotechnic finale. What was he trying to say? Many believe the answer lies not in the lyrics, but in what was left out.
No go.
No final group bow. No farewell speech. Jin left the stage alone.
No dancers. No confetti.
Just darkness. The aftermath has been nothing short of explosive. Social media erupted into chaotic speculation. Was this a one-time deviation, or a deliberate dismantling of what fans have come to expect from K-pop idols? Why did Jin look more like a man confronting a system than an artist celebrating his return? And what does this mean for BTS as a collective? Behind the scenes, reports began to circulate that parts of the performance were entirely unscripted, even unrehearsed. Insiders say that staff were reportedly panicking backstage, unprepared for the rawness of Jin's delivery. And yet, nothing malfunctioned. No one stopped him. No one interrupted. Because in that moment, even the people behind the scenes realized something far larger was unfolding. Something historic, Not since Psy's viral explosion in 2012 has a Korean artist disrupted the Western stage with such force. But unlike Gangnam Style, this wasn't viral through absurdity. It was devastating in its emotional precision. It was K-pop stripped of gloss, raw and trembling under the lights of a foreign arena. I asked this what the future of K-pop looks like. A future where idols reclaim their voices, not just musically, but personally. If Jin's Anaheim performance is any indication, the era of invulnerable, smile-on-command perfection may be ending. And no one, not fans, not agencies, not the industry at large, was ready for it. What makes this even more unsettling for the establishment is the timing. Jin's return was supposed to be symbolic of BTS's steady reformation post-military service. Instead, it's opened an entirely new conversation. What happens when an idol reemerges not with polished choreography and promotional taglines, but with vulnerability and confrontation? It's not just the fans who are now asking questions. Music critics have begun labeling Jin's performance as the most subversive solo comeback in K-pop history. American outlets are spotlighting the Anaheim concert as a cultural inflection point. And within Korean media, uncomfortable silence grows. Because to acknowledge what happened on that stage would mean acknowledging that the rules may no longer apply. How will HYB respond? How will other members follow, if at all? Is Jin setting a new precedent for how idols perform abroad? Or is he burning bridges that others were never brave enough to even cross? What remains undeniable is this: history was made in Anaheim. Not through a record-breaking stream count, nor through a viral TikTok trend, but through the quietest, most piercing revolution ever to unfold on an American stage. But even after the lights dimmed and the audience dispersed into the California night, the tremors did not stop. The silence Jin left behind was not empty. It was filled with echoes that refused to fade. Online platforms were flooded with disoriented reflections, emotional breakdowns, and messages from fans who admitted they didn't know how to process what just happened. This was not how K-pop concerts were supposed to end. And perhaps that was the point. What Jin dismantled on that stage was more than a set list. He peeled away layers of idol expectation and exposed the price of perfection. He didn't just reject spectacle, he made it irrelevant. In its place, he offered humanity, grief, reflection, and the painful beauty of growth. Every choice he made, what to sing, what not to say, what to reveal, was calculated not for applause, but for confrontation. With himself, with the system, with us. Was this the end of something? Or the beginning of something far more dangerous? For those who have long profited from silence, it is too soon to fully measure the cultural consequences of what occurred at the Seokjin_EP tour in Anaheim. But one thing is certain, Jin has redrawn the boundaries of what it means to be a K-pop artist performing in America. He didn't chase validation. He didn't play the part. He stood alone and demanded that the world see him, not the idol, not the product, but the person. And now the industry must decide, will it silence him or follow him? In the end, perhaps the most haunting question is not what Jin revealed, but what he refused to hide anymore. Whatever comes next, history will remember Anaheim not as a comeback venue, but as the place where K-pop itself was forced to look in the mirror. And the reflection it saw looked a lot more like Jin. History was not just witnessed that night. It was rewritten, and no one, not even the biggest names in music, was ready.